Hi, my dear students. Myself, Anu Shishidharan, Academic Director and Biology Faculty of Rankings Entrance Training Academy. I welcome all of you in my new video lesson. Today, I am going to talk about the chapter How Do Organisms Reproduce Part 2. As you know, the last video lesson we have discussed different types of reproduction and the importance of DNA copying. As you are very familiar, there are two different types of reproduction occur in nature. That is asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. Today we are going to discuss the detailed aspects of asexual reproduction. Do you know what is called asexual reproduction? Yes, you are very familiar. The production of new individuals from a single parent without the fusion of gametes. That means without fertilization. Such type of reproduction we can collectively call the asexual reproduction. Is it clear? It's a type of reproduction in which only a single parent is involved. Okay, as a result of asexual reproduction, the new individuals are formed which are morphologically and genetically similar. Do you know what is the meaning of morphologically as well as genetically? It means the individuals produced as a result of asexual reproduction, they are similar in external appearance as well as in their genetic constitution. So clear? Such type of morphologically and genetically similar individuals are called clones. So clear? Dear students, we have to discuss in detail different types of asexual reproduction. The most important type of asexual reproduction we have to discuss in this session, that is the first one is the fission, second one fragmentation, next one regeneration, budding, vegetative propagation and spore formation. So in this video lesson, I would like to discuss the fission, fragmentation, regeneration, budding and spore formation. First of all, we are going to discuss fission. As you are very familiar, many single-celled organisms like protozoa and bacteria just split into two identical halves during cell division. That leads to the creation of new individuals. Look in this diagrammatic representation. This is actually a diagrammatic representation of a bacterium, suppose. This bacterium, whenever it becomes mature and divided into two cells. Do you know, in this type of organisms, the cell division means its reproduction. Okay, this type of reproduction we can collectively call the fission. Okay, we can simply say the organisms can be able to split into two identical halves, and these two identical halves that leads to the creation of new individuals. This is called a fission. Dear students, we have to discuss two different types of fission, that is binary fission and multiple fission. Okay, now we have to discuss what is binary fission. Dear students, in binary fission, the parent organism split to form two new organisms. Is it clear? And this type of binary fission commonly seen in organisms like amoeba, paramecium, etc. This is a diagrammatic representation showing the process of binary fission in amoeba. Look, in amoeba, when the cell has reached maximum size, whenever the cell becomes mature, then first the nucleus lengthens and divides into two. Dear students, whenever the amoeba cell becomes mature, first of all, what happened? The nuclei of amoeba that should be divided into two daughter nuclei. After that, the cytoplasm of amoeba divides into two parts. Is it clear? And as a result, you can see a single parent amoeba divides to form two daughter cell, means two daughter amoeba. This type of reproduction we can collectively call the binary fission. Is it clear? Dear students, when you consider some other organisms like Leishmania, they're having some differences in binary fission. Okay, Leishmania also performing binary fission, but as compared to amoeba, having some differences. Now, let us discuss about the process of binary fission in Leishmania. As you know, Leishmania is actually a protozoan which may cause a disease called a Kala-Azar that you have learned in lower classes. This is the diagrammatic representation of Leishmania. You just carefully observe this diagram. You can see that the Leishmania has a greater degree of organization in its body. They are having a whip-like structure called a flagellum. Can you see the flagellum over here? Yes. So when if you compare the structure of Leishmania with amoeba, the structure of Leishmania is much complicated as compared to amoeba. So here the binary fission occur in such a way that the parent cell divided in a specific or definite plane. Is it clear? That means here the splitting of the parent cell during fission, it takes place in a definite plane. Can you see that definite plane? That binary fission occur in this way only. First of all, same as that of amoeba, the nucleus should be divided into two daughter nuclei. Afterwards, its cytoplasm or its other part should be divided, but the division that should be occur only in longitudinal direction with respect to the flagellum at its end. Is it clear? So in case of Leishmania, we can see that the binary fission can be able to occur in a specific longitudinal definite plane itself. But in case of amoeba, we can see that the process of binary fission occur in through any plane. Is it clear? So the binary fission in Leishmania differ from amoeba. Is it clear for you? Next one, we have to discuss the process of multiple fission. Okay, in multiple fission, you can see that the parent organism split to form many new organisms at the same time. For example, Plasmodium. Okay, Plasmodium is also a type of protozoan. Is it clear? This is the diagrammatic representation of Plasmodium. Okay, during unfavorable condition, what happened? A cyst or protective wall is formed around it. Do you follow me? Okay, when you consider the structure of Plasmodium, you can see that a cyst or protective wall formed during unfavorable condition. Can you see the cyst wall over here? Yes. In the cyst, what happened? The nucleus of the cell splits several times to form many smaller nuclei called daughter nuclei. Okay. Afterwards, what happened? Little bits of cytoplasm collect around each daughter nuclei. That means each and every daughter nuclei should be enter into little bit of cytoplasm, and many daughter cells are formed within the cyst. Okay, when the favorable condition arrived, what happened? The cyst will break open and the daughter cell released. Okay, and each and every daughter cells forming a new organism. So in case of multiple fission, you can see that a single plasmodium should be divided to form so many daughter cells instead of two. But in case of binary fission, we have seen a parent cell divided into two. But in case of multiple fission, a parent cell divided to form large number of daughter cell, means large number of new organisms. Okay, this is the characteristic feature of multiple fission. Now let us discuss about another important asexual reproduction. It is called fragmentation. Okay, So this type of reproduction commonly seen in multicellular organisms which are having simple organization. Okay, this type of asexual reproduction commonly seen in certain type of algae. Okay, here you can see the simply break up into smaller pieces upon maturation. Suppose you think about this is the diagrammatic representation of an algae named Spirogyra. Whenever the Spirogyra body, I mean the thallus, becomes mature, what happened? It should be divided or break up into smaller pieces. You can see that these smaller pieces or fragments grow into new individuals. As you are very familiar, Spirogyra is a green filamentous algae which is found in ponds and lakes. Is it clear? Such type of organisms performing another important type of asexual reproduction called fragmentation. Okay. Next one, we have to discuss what is regeneration. Dear students, some organisms like Hydra and Planaria have the ability to give rise to new individual organisms from their body parts. Suppose you think about this is the diagrammatic representation of Planaria. Okay, Planaria, you are very familiar. It's a flat worm which is found in freshwater ponds. If the body of Planaria somehow gets cut into number of pieces, in this diagrammatic representation, you can see that the body of Planaria somehow get cut into 3 pieces. Can you see? Then you can see each and every piece can regenerate into a complete Planaria by growing all the missing parts. Okay, that means each and every fragment, I mean each and every piece that should regenerate other parts and converted into new individual. You can see that regeneration is carried out by specialized cells. Okay, the most important point you can see that complex multicellular organisms cannot be reproduced by regeneration. That means the regeneration process commonly seen in organisms like Hydra and Planaria. Okay, that means the organisms having simple body organization. When you consider complex multicellular organisms cannot be reproduced by regeneration. Why? Because you are very familiar in case of complex multicellular organisms, the group of cells are actually making tissues that you have learned in lower classes, isn't it? The group of tissues makes into organs. Organs constitute the organ system, and organ system constitute the entire organism. So in case of multicellular organisms, I mean complex multicellular organisms, the regeneration process could not be occur as part of reproduction. Okay, this type of reproduction is not at all present in highly complicated multicellular organisms. Why? Because their body organization is highly complex. This is something about regeneration. Another important type of asexual reproduction now we are going to discuss, that is budding. Do you know what you call budding? Yes. In budding, you can see a small part of the body of the parent organism grows out as a bud, which then detach and become new organism. This type of budding process commonly seen in Hydra and some type of unicellular fungus like yeast. This is the diagrammatic representation of Hydra. Can you see? You can see that in Hydra, a small bud develops as an outgrowth due to the repeated cell division at one specific site. Is it clear? Because of repeated cell division at a particular site, you can see a small outgrowth will be developed, which is called a bud. You can see that in next diagram, this buds develops into tiny individuals, and when it becomes fully mature, what happened? That should be detached from the parent body and become new independent individuals. Okay, this is the process of budding occur in Hydra. Now we have to discuss the process of budding occur in yeast cell. As you know, he is actually a unicellular fungus. Okay, same as that of Hydra we have seen, a small bud will develop on the surface of unicellular fungus like yeast. Afterwards, what happened? The parent cell having the nuclei, you are very familiar, that nucleus divided into two daughter nuclei. Okay, out of two daughter nuclei, one of the nuclei must be enter into newly formed buds. And whenever the bud becomes mature, that should be detached from the parent cell. As a result, two cells are formed. That means the budding process is over. Is it clear? This is something about the process of budding. We have to discuss one more type of asexual reproduction, that is called a spore formation. As you know, it is the most common method of asexual reproduction in which the parent plant produces hundreds of microscopic reproductive units called spores. I hope you might hear about the fungal spores, isn't it? I mean, most of the fungi, they can reproduce by means of asexual spores. Okay, one of the most important example, it is called a rhizopus or bread mold. This is a diagrammatic representation of rhizopus or bread mold. It's a type of fungus commonly seen on decaying food materials, especially on bread. Okay, you can see that the spores are actually formed in a specialized structure called sporangia. Can you see this specialized structure called sporangia, which are developed on the erect fungal hyphae? Hyphae means the body of fungi is called hyphae. At the tip of the fungal body, you can see some spherical structures are called sporangia. Inside the sporangia, what happened? The spores will develop. You are very familiar, under favorable condition, what happened? The spores which are released by rupturing the sporangial wall and get dispersed to the new habitat. You are very familiar, each and every spores, when they are fall on a suitable substratum, each and every spores germinate and grow into a new fungal body or a new hyphae. Is it clear? So when you consider the spore formation, the organisms having or producing spores, they're having some speciality. That means the spore formation is very, very important. Why? Because the spore formation is actually very simpler and faster mode of reproduction. And you are very familiar, the spores are actually being very small and lightweight and get easily dispersed through the wind and water. So this is the most easy method of asexual reproduction commonly seen in fungus. Is it clear? And all these are different types of asexual reproduction we have to discuss. Dear students, I hope you have understood all the concepts, I mean all different types of asexual reproduction in detail. Okay, I request all of you, you have to go through this video lesson again and again for better understanding. So now I would like to conclude the session. Thank you. Have a